We're back. Our guests today are familiar faces to all of you: Ziva Brandstetter, Charlie Biggs, and John Durkee. And Ziva just got a new car.
I did. Good day.
It's a good day for you?
Contributing to the economy.
Are you going to be driving on Tulsa streets?
I am, unfortunately.
Not really a good day.
Right. I don't know how long it'll be due, but we'll do the best we can.
Well,
It's got a warranty though, right?
Right, it does.
No, you're okay. You're
4
okay
years.
then. Yeah.
I think
You're fine.
Check the fine print right close to earthquakes. It says no shaking.
Right.
Boy, you're going to get a lot of it here. Okay, first up, the governor sends a letter to the president. Need to rethink this Syrian thing, man. Listen, we don't want to get Syrian folks in here yet. It's not a good time. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the mayor did as well.
Yeah.
And of course, the governor's far from alone in that. There have been, what is it, 30 governors now?
Well, we're half of the governors.
Right.
Yeah. And so they range from Alabama and Texas governors who say we're not allowing Syrians in here. And really, if you look at the fine print of what Dewey
They
Bartlett
can't
said
stop it.
and Governor Fallon said, it's more like we need to make sure that we're screening them appropriately.
They're safe. And
Yeah.
they're not the terrorists coming in the.
Under the Constitution, they can't really stop them.
Well, the State Department says that it's 24 months to fully vet people, and one of the problems is documentation. These people are coming out of Syria, and they don't have anything, and we don't know who they are or that much about them. So there's a bit of a problem. Of course, with the deal in Paris, I believe one of the people that shot up people there was, they think, was a Syrian refugee that came in with the refugees. So
Well, the report that I saw on 4 networks said he had a false passport, and when he came through, it was accepted. So,
Right.
And after what happened this morning, whether the day we're taping this, or they made that second raid, got everybody except the main one. But it seems like nobody's talking about what happened when the Vietnamese folk were brought in, or when the Cuban folks were brought in. Nobody's saying, wait a minute, we could put them at Fort Chaffee, for example. They'd be housed, they'd be fed, they'd be away from the elements, and they'd be protected while they go through the vetting process. Nobody's talking about that this time. Why is that?
Well, I think it's the specter of the terrorism. I think a lot of people think that maybe the Middle Eastern countries should be more open to taking these refugees. America is very compassionate. I don't think anybody in America says we don't want anybody coming in, we're going to lock the doors. But there's just that sense of security that we don't want to bring in some. And there's some Christians among. It's not just Muslims among these Syrian refugees. There's a lot of Christians, and there's a lot of sympathy for that too. But we just are worried about the terrorism.
Well, they are, of course, fleeing ISIS itself, and I think ISIS would like nothing more than to keep those millions of folks. I think 4 million have fled there in Syria so that they can rule over them and kill them. And it's not exactly a flood of people coming here. We have 3 in Oklahoma, 10,000 in all of the whole country are supposed
Well, what
to be
about this
coming
little guy
here.
down in Sallisaw, Representative John Bennett? He said there are dozens and dozens of them in Jenks.
There's absolutely nothing to support that. In fact, there are 3. The governor's own press release said there were 3, so he needs to get his facts straight.
Johnny has done things like this in the past, though.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Catholic Charities said this week that, and they processed the Syrian refugees in Tulsa, and their director said that they had been contacted by the State Department to start how many of these refugees would they like to handle here in Tulsa, and they cover the northeastern part of the state, and they said that they didn't want to increase anything beyond what they were doing right now, because it's a very detailed process. They not only the fear of terrorism, but to make sure when people come in that they are acclimated and they are taken care of when they come in too.
But you're right. In 1980, when we had the Cuban flotilla and everybody was brought to Fort Chaffee, at that time there was the same fear that Castro was emptying out his prisons and sending all of his thugs to the U.S. And we did confine the folks there, and there was a lot of fear. But in a way, by not accepting these people in, are we not playing into ISIS just a little bit?
Exactly.
And you don't see Saudi Arabians. 19 of the hijackers were Saudis. Are these same limits on Saudi Arabians coming to America?
And I thought it was, and in fact, I mentioned this to you on the phone. All the protests for the Veterans Day parades, and we've had Muslims involved in our wars going back to George Washington's time, and there was no protest though from the same group against white men registered as to vote Republican, white men registered to vote Republican who were members of the NRA, and I just described Timothy McVeigh. So nobody protested that. It was the Muslim faith, and that gets down to pure out-and-out bigotry. If you got a legitimate cause, that's one thing. This was not. And I was intrigued by a picture on the front of the Tulsa World that showed a member of the National Guard apologizing to a lady in a burqa.
That was nice.
For either what she had heard or what she was about to hear in the parade. And kudos to that member of the Guard. Well, anyway, we need to move on.
Complicated. I think there's strong feelings on both
Both
sides.
sides,
yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that it is important to make sure our procedures are, as good as they can be.
Possibility of government failure looms larger, kids. More money is needed. Apportionment to the General Revenue Fund fell over 10% short of expectations in October. Think we'll see them closing doors?
Sweet Oklahoma crude today is at $38 a barrel. The state budget is based on $59 a barrel. How are we going to do it? They're going to have to be cut back somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be in trouble, and they cut a lot last year. So it'll be interesting to see what the priorities are, how they're going to balance the books. There's something's going to have to give. I mean, education, spending on prisons, those are sort of the largest areas. So
And they're asking for 19 million more.
Yeah.
And some of those needs are essential because you're looking at health care, you look at incredible prison growth. What's going to happen? Any speculation on your part?
Well, I think one of the things that the legislature, I talked to a lawmaker this last week, a senator, who said that they're looking at the number of authorities, boards, and commissions, and trying to maybe reduce that to try to get some economy there. But I think one of the things that really, in the short term and the long term, is to grow your way out of this, and how do we do that? And that's the big question. One of the things they've talked about for 30 years, Sam, this diversification of our economy, and not to be
And they haven't done it, Charlie. I don't understand why.
Now, you can go back to Raymond Gary was talking about that in the 50s.
Right.
Alfalfa Bill Murray in the 30s. We just haven't done it.
Well, we've gotten a lot of credit to a lot of jobs that are telemarketing jobs.
Yeah. Low level.
Oh, well, day.
But the engineering and they're good paying jobs.
Yeah, but we just need more. We're not going to get through any. I've got so many things here that we'd like to touch on, but the state Democratic Party filed ethics complaints against the governor. There are 3 points to it. She improperly allowed her daughter to move a travel trailer onto the grounds and use its facilities. Claims that the governor accepted funds from the Business Roundtable to help finance a trip to Europe, and that was improper, and claims the governor improperly interfered with an investigation by the State Board of Medical Licensure on a Tulsa spine surgeon. And everybody can kind of poo-poo these, but I need to point out here, the possibility of a grand jury looms, and what started as ethics complaints, much the same as this, for 2 former governors, Frank Keating and David Walters, ended up costing some folks some serious money.
And even David Hall, you want to go
and
back
David
to
Hall, if you want to
the
pursue that
70s.
back. You think we'll see this go that far?
No.
I don't either. And I tell you, the Ethics Commission has very little teeth to it. They really don't have. They can wave their arms a lot, but they don't really do much. And I'll tell you, a bigger issue is the news that the Democrat Party is going to allow independents to vote in their primaries. That's
Very interesting.
That's to me, that's kind of interesting.
That's going to have a bigger impact, I think, than this.
I will say on the third issue, the investigation of the spine surgeon, we broke that story at the Frontier, and it is possible that there could be further legal action that may reopen this case. I've heard from some of the patients who felt like their case just was not adequately heard. They didn't get their day in court, essentially. And their day in court would have been before the state medical board.
And
the process was.
If
they
it
felt like it was
happens,
too
I'll
short.
bet you $10 against a donut, Rick Perry won't answer his phone.
He hasn't answered his phone so far, but apparently he and Governor Mary Fallin have a hotline to each other.
Oh, hello.
I think it'll have to be based on something like that.
Right, rather than
not
an
the
ethics-
Democrats.
Right.
Bless their hearts. You know, in Oklahoma we pray for them.
The news
you
is
know,
that they're still there and that they
Yeah,
they have
the-
press
the-
conferences.
coming out and coming out.
Okay, we got about 45 seconds. We didn't get to talk about Oklahoma is now the earthquake capital of the world, and what's really behind the move to change Oklahoma's constitution, which there's more to it. Unfortunately, we can't talk about this because there's no time. There's more to it than moving the 10 Commandments. What's now involved is money, education, and charter schools. So I got to tell you, this is going to heat up and it's going to get interesting. I wish we had more time. Thank you all, though, for coming. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you back next time.